What if I told you that one of the most famous movies about money, power, and excess was inspired by a real person? A man who started with almost nothing, climbed to the top of Wall Street in his 20s, and then lost everything just as fast. Today, we're not talking about fiction or Hollywood fantasy. We're talking about the real story behind The Wolf of Wall Street, what truly happened, what the movie changed, and what most people never hear about. The story begins in the late 1980s, when a young man named Jordan Belfort entered the world of finance. Like many others at the time, he was attracted by the promise of fast money, prestige, and success. Wall Street was seen as the ultimate symbol of achievement, and Belfort wanted to be part of it. He started working as a stockbroker and quickly realized that the financial world was not just about numbers. It was about persuasion, confidence, and psychology. After losing his first job during a market crash, Belfort found himself searching for another opportunity. That's when he discovered penny stocks. These were extremely cheap stocks, often sold by small or unknown companies, and they weren't closely regulated. What made them attractive was the huge commission brokers could earn by selling them. This discovery completely changed Belfort's direction. He realized that selling penny stocks wasn't about deep financial knowledge. It was about convincing people to buy, and he was very good at that. Not long after, Belfort co-founded a brokerage firm that would later become famous under the name Stratton Oakmont. From the outside, it looked like a fast-growing and successful company filled with young, ambitious employees. Inside, it was a high-pressure sales environment where confidence, motivation, and aggressive communication were everything. Brokers were trained to speak fast, sound professional, and create urgency. They were taught to make clients believe they were being offered a rare opportunity that could disappear at any moment. The goal was simple: close the deal before the customer had time to think too much. What made Stratton Oakmont especially powerful was the system behind it. The firm often promoted stocks that they already controlled or had strong financial interests in. This allowed them to influence prices and benefit when investors bought in. On the surface, everything looked legitimate, but behind the scenes, many of these investments had little real value. At its peak, the company employed hundreds of people and generated millions of dollars. The atmosphere was intense, competitive, and fueled by ambition. Long hours, constant phone calls, and high-pressure sales defined daily life. For many young employees, it felt like they had found a shortcut to wealth. The movie version of The Wolf of Wall Street focuses heavily on excess, chaos, and outrageous behavior. While some of that was exaggerated for entertainment, the core idea is true. The culture inside the company was built around extreme motivation and reward. Success was celebrated loudly, and failure was quickly punished. However, what the film simplifies is how normal everything looked from the outside. Stratton Oakmont didn't look like a criminal organization. It looked like a regular brokerage firm with offices, desks, phones, and employees wearing suits. This normal appearance made it easier for the operation to continue for years without raising immediate suspicion. Another important part of the story is the role of persuasion. Belfort later described his approach as a structured method of influence, designed to guide conversations in a specific direction. The goal was to control the flow of communication and lead potential clients toward a decision. This idea later became known as the straight line system. While persuasion itself isn't illegal, problems arise when it's used to mislead people or hide important information. Over time, complaints began to appear, and regulators started paying closer attention to Stratton Oakmont's activities. Investigators noticed unusual trading patterns and inconsistencies. As more evidence appeared, authorities began building a case. Eventually, the pressure became impossible to ignore. Belfort was confronted with serious legal consequences and chose to cooperate with investigators. This cooperation played a major role in the downfall of the company. Information provided during the investigation exposed internal practices, and helped authorities understand how the operation worked. As a result, Belfort pleaded guilty to multiple charges related to financial misconduct. He was sentenced to prison and ordered to repay money to those who had lost investments. His life, once filled with luxury and excess, suddenly changed completely. The rise was over, and the consequences had arrived. After serving his sentence, Belfort returned to society with a very different public image. Instead of working in finance, he began focusing on public speaking and writing. He shared his experiences, talked about persuasion, and reflected on the mistakes he had made. His memoir, The Wolf of Wall Street, became the foundation for the famous movie adaptation. The film, directed by Martin Scorsese and starring Leonardo DiCaprio, brought the story to a global audience. It emphasized energy, chaos, and spectacle, turning the story into one of the most recognizable financial films ever made. However, like many Hollywood productions, the movie simplified and dramatized events. Some characters were merged, timelines were compressed, and certain moments were exaggerated to make the story more engaging. This doesn't mean the story is fake, but it does mean it was shaped for entertainment. One important thing the movie doesn't fully explore is the long-term impact of these actions. Real people lost money, trust in financial systems was damaged, and the consequences extended far beyond what is shown on screen. At the same time, the story also reveals something deeper about human behavior. It shows how ambition, when combined with opportunity and weak oversight, can lead people to cross ethical lines. It highlights how persuasion can be used either responsibly or destructively, depending on intention. That's one reason why this story continues to fascinate people. It's not just about money or excess. It's about ambition, temptation, and the choices people make when success comes quickly. Today, Jordan Belfort presents himself as someone who learned from his past. He speaks about ethics, responsibility, and the importance of using influence correctly. While opinions about him vary, his story remains one of the most famous examples of rapid rise and dramatic fall in modern business history. The real message behind The Wolf of Wall Street is that excess leads to happiness. It's that success without accountability eventually collapses. It's a reminder that persuasion is a powerful tool, and with that power comes responsibility. That's why this story still matters. It's not just about the past. It's a lesson about ambition, pressure, and the fine